This was what Patrick Hickey saw while he was busy delivering packages.
After seeing the car behind the house, them saying that nobody was there, I had a hard time believing it.
Patrick says neighbors told him no one was inside the home, but he checked anyway, and good thing he did.
She wasn't even aware their house was starting to catch fire.
And that's when he found a woman inside.
Ended up banging on the door, getting the lady out of her house.
Hickey says while trying to get the woman out of the burning home, he said she was quite worried for her belongings.
So she saying that all of her life's work was in the house and, kept reassuring her that stuff can be replaced. You can't.
Scenes like this aren't uncommon for Patrick. He's also a volunteer firefighter when he's not driving his route. Soddy-Daisy Fire Chief Mike Guffey says the smoke started to turn black. What does this mean?
This means we've got a lot of fuel in the fire, and it's a lot of unburnt fuel. So usually at that point, it's becoming a really extreme fire.
According to Chief Guffey, it was a case of the right place and right time.
It's extremely lucky to get out of a fire that bad. Thank goodness, like I said, it was the garage was where most of the fire was, and it was detached.
Hickey says even without his firefighter training,
it's probably something I would have done anyway.
Now, Chief Guffey says that if the fire would have burned another 5 minutes or so, things would have been worse as the fire had already made its way to the attic.
A nonprofit operating in Georgia and Tennessee aims to raise awareness on human trafficking and also intervene in trafficking attempts. The organization says they've had to shift their efforts as technology becomes more and more prevalent in people's lives.
We have a very comprehensive strategy to addressing the issue of human sex trafficking.
Ryan Dunlap is the executive director of Street Grace, a nonprofit that raises awareness for youth human trafficking.
We get into schools, youth groups, churches, and we empower them with the knowledge of what trafficking looks like, what it sounds like, so that they can protect themselves and protect each other.
According to the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation's Human Trafficking Unit, there have been 12 proactive operations this year, leading to 125 arrests. The most recent operation was in Chattanooga in November. 12 people were arrested. The TBI received over 1,100 calls to their human trafficking hotline this year alone, a significant increase compared to just over 900 calls last year. Street Grace also works to intervene in trafficking operations using an online bot
that allows us to identify a buyer who's attempting to purchase sex with a child and disrupt those communication attempts.
As social media advances, Dunlap says many predators have shifted their focus to online.
COVID was a really big catalyst for the growth of trafficking, right? A lot of kids ended up online who weren't online before with the digital learning and virtual learning environments.
Chattanooga resident Zach White says he's noticed this shift.
I grew up in the early 90s. The only thing we ever did on the computer was the roller coaster game.
He has a plan to teach his son to be safe in the new digital climate.
When we were young, it was like, oh, don't talk to strangers, stranger danger. But I feel like now that's even more relevant than it's ever been before in our history.
Dunlap says oftentimes a child who's been a victim of human trafficking starts exhibiting bad behavior like skipping school, getting bad grades, and use of drugs and alcohol.
U.S. leaders are monitoring the Omicron variant, which is now reported in at least 5 states. But the Delta strain is still hitting the country hard, and it's driving up cases right here in Hamilton County. President Biden laid out a strategy for how to handle COVID-19 as the calendar turns to winter. Now local leaders are doing the same. A post-Thanksgiving increase in Hamilton County COVID cases, but in year 2 of this pandemic, we're far from where we were 1 year ago.
Well, the big thing we have available are vaccines.
With just over half of Hamilton County fully vaccinated, city and county leaders say getting that number up is still the main priority.
What we shoot for is 70% minimum. And we're getting there.
Mayor Kelly's administration says one way they hope to do this is increasing accessibility of vaccinations.
It actually is a little bit more convenient to come just right down here.
Hazel Johnson lives in the city. She says getting to this downtown library clinic for her booster was a matter of convenience. And she says she's getting this shot for her grandmother.
I refused to get within 6 feet of my grandmother for about it's been almost 2 years now. And I would really like to be able to spend Christmas with her again.
Hoping more like Hazel opt for boosters or primary series, the city says they're expanding these clinics at city locations and extending hours.
We want as many vaccination clinic opportunities in this city as we can possibly staff.
And as local leaders monitor cases,
and we have to keep in mind that Delta is still here, and Delta is still very infectious.
a reminder that the next few months are dictated by the decisions we make now.
We've got to be smart about this. We have seen other peaks, surges. We would like not to have to see that again.
Hamilton County's health department confirmed 97 new cases of COVID-19 today. More than 800 remain active right now.